Would you move to an island of outcasts, knowing it might cost you your life? Imagine standing on the rugged shores of 19th century Hawaii, gazing across the water at a remote peninsula called Molokai. Lush and beautiful, yet marked by a tragic destiny, this place had become a world apart, a forced colony for those afflicted by leprosy. In a time before cures and compassion, Molokai was a sentence of exile, the last stop for thousands whose only crime was a disease that terrified society. Few dared to cross that divide. But one man did, not just with his feet, but with his whole heart. Father Damien was born Joseph de Vooster in rural Belgium in 1840, the youngest of 7 children. From an early age, he was drawn to a life of service, inspired by stories of missionaries who carried hope to the farthest corners of the world. The road was never easy. He struggled with studies, yet persevered, driven by an inner conviction that faith meant more than words or rituals. It meant action, a willingness to meet people where they hurt the most. In 1864, Damien arrived in Hawaii, then a kingdom teeming with change, where Western contact brought both opportunity and devastation. Among the gravest challenges was the spread of leprosy, now called Hansen's disease. With no cure in sight, the government's solution was cruel but desperate: isolate the sick on Molokai, separating them from their families forever. The settlement quickly became a place of despair and chaos, where the dying lived without hope, structure, or dignity. When the Bishop of Honolulu pleaded for priests to serve on Molokai, he made no illusions about the risks. It would not be a short assignment. A priest who went might never come back. Volunteer after volunteer hesitated, until Damien, young and vigorous, simply stepped forward. "I am willing," he said. "I want to go." From the moment he arrived in 1873, Father Damien did more than preach. He lived as the lepers lived, ate their food, drank from their cups, and embraced them as brothers and sisters. He built homes to replace the squalid huts, schools to uplift children, and a church where the outcast could pray with dignity. With his own hands, he bandaged wounds and dug graves, refusing to let anyone in his care die alone or unloved. Where others saw ruin, Damien saw a community worth fighting for. His presence transformed Molokai. Order returned, gardens flourished, and laughter, long absent, echoed among the hills. But perhaps more important than bricks or mortar was the gift of hope that he restored. For the first time, the lepers were not just patients to be pitied, but people to be cherished, with names and stories, joys and sorrows. Damien called them "my dear brothers and sisters," and to them he was not a distant authority but a father, a friend, and eventually one of their own. For 16 years, Damien toiled on Molokai. He wrote letters to officials, pleading for better supplies, medicines, and support. He challenged the powerful to see the humanity of the outcast, to move beyond fear to love. His advocacy drew attention worldwide, inspiring people to send money and volunteers. Yet Damien's greatest lesson was not in his words, but in his willingness to share the burdens of those he served. In 1884, Damien discovered that he too had contracted leprosy. Some urged him to leave, to seek medical care elsewhere, but he refused. "I am happy and content," he wrote. "Even though I must bear this cross, I would not want to be without it." He knew that to abandon his flock now would be to betray everything he had lived for. In his final years, his body weakened, but his spirit remained unbroken. He continued to work, to comfort the dying, to celebrate Mass, and to remind the world that love is strongest when it costs something. On April 15, 1889, Father Damien died, not as a distant missionary, but as a true companion in suffering, a leper among lepers, a brother among brothers. His legacy did not end with his death. Others, inspired by his courage, followed in his footsteps, eventually leading to medical breakthroughs and the end of forced isolation on Molokai. In 2009, the Catholic Church canonized him as Saint Damien, recognizing not just his heroism, but his radical love. Saint Damien's life raises a profound question. What does it mean to love without fear? He teaches us that compassion is not content with safe distances or easy gestures. True ministry, true service, is incarnational. It means crossing boundaries, sharing life with those the world often forgets. Damien did not serve as a savior looking down, but as a companion willing to enter into the pain and joy of others. He reminds us that sacrifice is not the enemy of love, but its clearest sign. In a world that still builds walls, sometimes out of fear, sometimes out of indifference, Damien's example challenges us. Where are we called to step closer, not away, from the suffering around us? Who are the outcasts in our communities, the people our society prefers to ignore or avoid? It might not be a remote island, but perhaps it is the lonely neighbor, the sick, the homeless, the refugee, the misunderstood. The invitation is the same: to move beyond comfort, to risk our hearts, to put love into action. Saint Damien of Molokai reminds us that love is never safe, but it is always worth it. He shows us that to serve is to see the face of God in those who hurt, and to discover, in giving ourselves away, a deeper joy than we could ever have imagined. His story is an enduring call to live not just for ourselves, but for others, to build not just walls, but bridges, and to remember that the greatest acts of love may begin with a single courageous step closer. As you reflect on Damien's life, ask yourself, where is God calling you to step closer? What risks are you willing to take for love? In the end, the measure of our lives will not be how safe we played it, but how deeply we loved.